being an yeah, that word, because I can't pronounce it. What's up? Trigger here. How you doing? I'm back. Welcome to my book ranting corner of the internet, page by pickle. I'm back with another book review. I finished this book last night actually. It was a gift from a friend. How to Tell the Truth by Preston Perry. And I just really wanted to do like a short review of it because I really enjoyed it. It was so refreshing. It was so easy for tackling a topic that I think is quite hard and very challenging for a lot of people. He really did a really good job at making it seem like anybody can do it, like any Christian can do it. So this is How to Tell the Truth, the story of how God saved me to win hearts, not just arguments. So Preston Perry is a Christian apologist and poet, and now author. This is his first book, and he's famously known for sharing the gospel on the streets in the US. He has this channel called Bold TV where he just kind of goes and shares the gospel to random people on the streets, and usually with people of different faiths, and sort of presenting the gospel to them. And so he wrote this book really to just kind of tell us how he got to where he's at and what God has done for him, and also just show that sharing the gospel or being an yeah, that word, because I can't pronounce it, it's not about argument. It's not about like I'm right, you are wrong, kind of like contentious type of thing. It's about love, and wanting to bring people to the saving knowledge of Christ. So he kind of gives us an overview of how he got saved. He was a hood boy really, and how he encountered Christ and the people that walked with him and what that looked like. He started when, if you're saved, that when you get saved, there's that fire that kind of comes at the very beginning, sort of like crazy fire. And he kind of went on fire trying to teach the gospel, share the gospel with this particular friend of his back in high school called John, who was a Jehovah's Witness. And he was trying to like show him that he didn't have the right theology and things like that. And he kind of chronicles that as a lesson of how not to share the gospel, because it seemed like he was just attacking this guy, really just more about theology and not about the person's heart, and how he kind of learned from that experience. And then he shares different stories of different ways that he's now learned and grown. He talks about discipleship as well, how he got discipled to get to where he's at, and how that's very important. And just how ultimately the best person to learn from is not Preston himself, but Christ. Like Christ was the best apologist, and he does do a sort of a differentiation between an evangelist, a teacher, a preacher, and a disciple maker. And he says that ultimately, as all Christians, were really meant to be disciples. And so you can't really make the excuse like, oh, I'm not gifted like that. I'm not like, you should be ready in and out of season. Of course, some people will lean towards more expressions of that gifting than others, but like we are all called to be disciples. One of my favorite things in the book, actually, if not my favorite thing, was how he kind of transitions, because early on in the book he's talking about sharing the gospel with people in the streets, but then he then goes on to say like one of the hardest things actually to share the gospel with to are people who are in your life, like your family and your friends, because they have seen how sin has kind of had a grip on you. They have seen how you've wrestled with it, and how he says this something about how sin has called your name and has gripped. I can't remember what is that. Let me see. I think Okay, so he says this, when it comes to sharing gospel with the family, he says, the thing is, there's an anonymity that comes with doing evangelism and apologetics with the world around you and not the world you come from. A world that doesn't know anything personal about you. They don't know about the things you fear. They don't know your failures and the ways those failures have attempted to claim you and call you by their name. when you share the truth with strangers, it's sometimes easier to be bold because you can hide in plain sight. If strangers get frustrated with you, things turn south, or God forbid you lose your cool and fumble a soul or two, odds are you're never gonna see these people again. But there's no avoiding family and friends. When telling the truth of the gospel to people you know, sometimes that familiarity can make talking about your faith a little awkward. And he tackles into how that's very hard really to do, and he understands. It comes from a very sympathetic. It really felt like talking to like a brother, honestly, for me. Like just having a chat with a really cool dude telling you about his story. And he kind of talks about how with family members and people that are constantly going to be in your life, you kind of have to take a bit of a discipleship role. Like, let them watch you, be faithful, call them out when you need to call them out in that sense, like, but still tell them that you're there for them and you're going to love them in spite of it all, right? I think an additional thing that he mentions in here that I really, really enjoyed, he talks about Joseph of Arimathea. When he's talking about boldness, and he's talking about how, you know, sometimes it's fine, like if you're a coward and you're scared, like keep praying, keep pressing into it, and pray that the Lord will give you the courage. Like, don't die a coward. He talks about Joseph of Arimathea and how this was the guy that buried Jesus at the cross, right? Put him in his tomb, I believe. And he talks about how when the time comes, when it matters the most, you should be able to stand up. And ultimately, that's really all that matters. Like, don't let past instances where you were a coward, where you were afraid, like cripple you. When it matters most, stand up. Like, the disciples were not even there at the cross, right? Like, but you see that even though it seems like he was afraid to share that he believed in Jesus, or didn't share that he believed in Jesus, whatever the interpretation of that could be, but it still seems like when it matters the most, he stood up. So like, you're not the person that saves people. It's God who converts people. So when they reject you, when they reject what you share with them, they're not rejecting you. They're rejecting God. And ultimately, God will take care of that. Like, yours is just to share, be bold, and he will honor that in his own way. Really a good book, honestly. It's such an easy read. It's so quick, and it's so encouraging. Like, very, very uplifting, brings you at the feet of Christ, and just tells you that the Lord is with you at all times. Don't let fear cripple you. Don't let what people will think, what people will say, and what, you know, circumstances might look like for you if you share the gospel. Just do it. And if you've been crippled in the past, like, be like Joseph of Arimathea. When it matters the most, stand up and share the gospel. My favorite thing about it is that I haven't heard him do poetry in a very long time, and it was really nice to see his poetic gift kind of flesh out in the book. It was really, really easy to read, but still had like that punch that was in his poetry. I will give it a 5 out of 5. Actually, my rating would be 5 out of 5. I think it does what it promises to do in a quick, easy, chilled, fun, and enjoyable way. So that's Preston Perry, How to Tell the Truth. Thank you for watching. Bye.